right. Welcome back, everybody, to the third Saturday in October podcast. We've got a fun edition of who do Cameron and I think should be in the college football playoff. So we're going to go through all of our seedings today. Before we get started, Cameron, you want to give us a reminder on the rules for who makes it in?
Sure. So this is 2024 is the first season of the 12-team playoff. The way that it works, there are four teams that receive a first round bye. Those four teams are conference champions. The qualification to be a conference champion or to sit in one of those four spots is that you are one of the top four ranked conference champions. That does not mean that you have to be a Power Four team. It means you can actually be a G5 and be in there should the ranking, fit in that mold, if you will. There is no rule around the number of teams from a specific conference that can or cannot be in, and a G5 team must be represented in the playoff. If they are in one of those first four seeds, there does not have to be a second one. If they are not in those first four, there must be at least one in the other remaining seven seeds. Anything that I missed, Evan?
No, that was so good. I think a 3-year-old would understand it. And yeah, before we kind of get into our picks, if you have not seen our last episode where we went in and picked who we thought was going to win each of the different conference championships, highly recommend going back and watching that first. It's going to make a lot more sense when we get to the rankings. We'll have a link down in the description to that episode. But without further ado, I think I'm up first. So Cameron, let's go ahead and pop up the bracket.
Let's go ahead and do it.
So here we go. Starting out with my number one seed, I have got Oregon winning the Big Ten. As I said yesterday, I don't think that's going to come as a surprise to a lot of people. If Oregon wins out, they're already number one. They will be in this spot. Number two is my upset for the championship. So I've got UGA winning the SEC championship over Texas and taking them over as that number two spot. They're just a good team, and they're making it happen. At number three, over in the ACC championship winner, I've got SMU beating out Clemson. This is going to be an interesting one. Go back yesterday, listen to that video if you can, because I think we both got a lot to say about that game. And then at number four, rounding out the conference champions, I've got Boise State taking their Mountain West champion and bringing Ashton Jeanty to the top four and getting that first round bye. So those are the top four picks that I've got so far. So let's keep moving on.
Can I ask you a question on your selection here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is Boise State number four and not the Big 12 champion? If Arizona State beats Iowa State, would they be number four in your opinion or no?
I don't think so, only because Boise State is already ranked above them, and I don't think the playoff committee is gonna jump Arizona State above Boise State.
Even though it's a G5 will make the top four.
I do, only because they're all around. They've had the better record all season. They've been there consistently. Arizona State right now is kind of squeaking at the edge right now. So, yeah, I don't think the playoff committee is going to put Arizona State over Boise State. I just don't think they're going to move them back.
Understood.
Yeah. All right. So over to number five, I've got a really good Notre Dame team who, if they were in a conference, I'd have them much higher than they are right now. But it's their choice to be a non-conference team, which, gosh, I'm hoping that's going to change in the next couple of years. I don't know that it will. Over at number six, I have got the upset on the SEC champion, Texas, coming in at number six. I don't think they're going to move down that far, coming in off a loss for a really good Georgia team. So I've got Texas taking that number six spot. At number seven, though, we've got Penn State. This is a little bit of an interesting one. Biggest reason I've got them here, where I do think they could be number six coming off a loss to Oregon, is just that Texas is already ranked above them. I think if both teams lose, they're not going to put Penn State over Texas unless it's a really, really good game by Penn State and a really bad game by Texas. All right, who we got next up at number 8? My boys over at,
That is Ohio State.
that is not right.
Oh,
I've got Tennessee coming in at number 8 and Ohio State at number 9. Sorry, our we are a low budget
sorry, we got
kind of
swapped out on
company.
that one.
That's all right. So I got Tennessee coming in at number 8. They could be number 9. They're currently number 9. I think it's kind of a toss up between Ohio State and Tennessee on that one. Honestly, best thing for both of these teams right now is not playing in their championship game. More so for Tennessee over Ohio State. And I think you're going to see that theme a lot with these non conference champion games. It's almost a blessing this year to not be in some of those big conference championships. We had a whole other episode about that where, I'd recommend going back and watching that one. So, like I said, got Tennessee in at 8, hosting Ohio State in Neyland Stadium, which is just going to be a crazy environment.
Either one of those two environments would
Either
be
one
a
is going to
really
be
fun one.
insane. Yeah, either one is going to be really, really cool. Over at 10, I didn't want to pick them, but I feel like I have to. They have no other games to knock them out of the running. So I've got Indiana in at number 10. Do they deserve to be there? Their record certainly suggests so. Strength of schedule, maybe not so much, but I almost guarantee that they're going to be in there. And then we've got at the 11th spot, we've got Arizona State. Like you mentioned, Big 12 champion. However, right now they are ranked a little bit too low, I think, to jump Boise State in the rankings. And as you mentioned, it is the top 4 ranked conference champions that are going to get those top 4 spots. For that reason and that reason only, I'm getting them in at number 11. Now, here's kind of one of the weird things with this ranking system and this seeding system. Boise State could be number 10 in the rankings. Arizona State could be number 11 in the rankings. But for that reason only, that they are the higher ranked conference champion, Boise State would go up to that number 4 spot, just being where it is. That's why when you see on the college football playoff selections coming out each Tuesday, they've got their rankings and then they've got their seedings that are a little bit different. So I've got them in there at number 11, coming off a win against Iowa State. And then for the last one, which I went back and forth a lot on this, and I still think this 12 seat is a little bit up for grabs because there's so many things that can happen. But I do see Alabama squeaking back into the playoffs. Biggest reason on this one, Miami, they just don't look good enough. They don't have the same strength of schedule as Alabama had, and Alabama has a lot more wins against ranked opponents than Miami or some of these other teams that are on the bubble. For that reason and that reason only, I'm going strength of schedule on this one. I think Alabama's going to make it in.
Okay.
Now, I know you have a completely different bracket. Like I said, if you didn't watch our last episode, highly recommend going back in because I don't want to ruin it, but our picks are very, very different this week. So
I'll be entirely honest. I'm holding back a lot of questions and feedback until the end of this.
No, go for
Soon
it.
we'll have a minute
Let's
to
do it
debate.
now. No, I'd love to hear initial thoughts first.
I think my bracket will explain a lot of my thoughts.
All right, go for it.
All right, moving over to mine. Starting off strong, number 1, I think is going to be Texas. I believe Texas will be the SEC champion. I think it's a pretty easy debate. That's going to lead into a huge question. How does Oregon not stay as number 1 if they beat Penn State? Because I outwardly don't think that they will. If you want to hear more, Evan has alluded to it several times. We'll note our comments here or from the conference championships. I believe that Penn State is actually going to beat Oregon on Saturday. That's kind of one of my big upsets for the weekend. That happens. Penn State takes the number 2 spot. Number 3, I've got Clemson. I genuinely hate this pick. I have Clemson beating SMU. I'm going to go ahead and show you four so that I can kind of break down why Clemson is the third seed and they're currently ranked number 19 with 3 losses. This is excruciating. Clemson has 3 losses. 2 of them are in conference. One came last week against, or sorry, one is in conference. 2 came against SEC teams. Those are Georgia and South Carolina. That said, Clemson has an opportunity to play SMU in in their ACC championship game. I think that Clemson is a better team on that given day, not throughout the entire season. And because of how this, bye works, I think that you have a debate between Iowa State beating Arizona State, Clemson beating SMU, and also I think UNLV is actually going to beat Boise State. I do not see UNLV moving that far up. So you can see where the chaos kind of comes in.
Yeah, so if you didn't just real quick, if you didn't see the last episode and you're not going to go back and watch it, Cameron pretty much predicted all upsets in all of the championship games.
With
Just
reason. With
every
reason.
single one except for Texas, by the way, except for the SEC championship. So I've got other thoughts on this. Go ahead.
You got it. Number 5, Evan, you and I agree. We both have Notre Dame. I think they're a good team. Just can't have a bye. Number 6, I've got Oregon. I don't think Oregon would drop very far. I think you have an argument that they may only drop to 5 because they're only a one-loss team if they go down to Penn State. Number 7, I think that Tennessee moves up. Number 8, I think, is Ohio State. Evan, I know you had Ohio State and Tennessee is 8 and 9. I actually have Tennessee moving up a little bit. I think that with the chaos of Georgia actually losing in that game, it gives a little bit more flexibility in the playoff to allow Tennessee to move up. May
Hey,
actually give
I'm
you
a
an easier.
I'm a Tennessee fan. I'll take it. I'd love to play who I think you might have there.
So I think that if this bracket were to happen, I think maybe the game of the first round is Ohio State and Georgia, and this is Ohio State hosting.
That'd be a fun rematch, huh?
That would be an incredible game. Tons of talent. Depends on what version of Carson Beck we have on scoring, but that could be a really fun, compelling game to watch. Number 10, I think we also had this one the same, Indiana. Again, they don't really have a great win the entire season, but they have one loss to Ohio State. I think it would actually be a very fun game watching a high-flying Tennessee offense, assuming Nico can hit, against a very good Indiana team. Number 11, I have Alabama. I think Alabama's going to
Ooh.
sneak into the playoff. The reason that Alabama is not ranked number 12 is because you have to have a G5 team. If UNLV beats Boise State, and this is where it gets very strange. Technically speaking, you don't have to pick a conference champion, but you have a recent head-to-head. I don't know that Boise State would have enough left on them to keep them in the playoff. UNLV actually just beat them. I could see this going Boise State or UNLV. One of the two would have to make the playoff. Those are the only two really to have a debate between. Now, Evan, obviously there's a ton of differences between ours. There's a lot going on between these. What are your general thoughts on mine?
I mean, there's a lot of upsets have to happen for yours to come even close. Uh, we have almost all the same teams,
Yeah,
minus I think just two, right? That are a little bit different, which I'm actually a little bit surprised about. I thought these would be even more different, but I don't know. Yours, okay. Let me say this, and I said this in our last episode: Clemson, SMU. That could go either way. I think SMU is going to pull it out because I just think Clemson's been too inconsistent.
I don't.
But well, that's a debate for last episode. Uh, if Clemson does pull it out, I agree with a majority of your rankings on that. So, do I think you're going to make it? Absolutely not, because way too much has to happen for all this to unravel like this. I just don't. I don't see it.
Now, one thing I do want to take a second, and we can look at both brackets for this. if my bracket were to occur, I actually think the seeding would lead to some more compelling games than what your bracket had, at least
I
in the first
agree.
round.
This would be a lot more fun bracket to watch. Ohio State at Georgia a couple years ago, that was a nail biter of a game.
Hmm.
No, Notre Dame, UNLV, I don't think that one would be even close.
I don't either. Or
If
Boise State wouldn't really make a
yeah,
difference.
yeah, just if I'm completely honest, and then honestly, I think Notre Dame would probably have the easiest path to the championship or at least the semifinals
Tennessee and
going
Indiana
forward.
and Alabama, Oregon. Those two
Those
are,
would be two games to watch,
I
is
would
all I
love
can say.
the opportunity to watch an Alabama, Oregon in Eugene.
Now, what I do love is you have Tennessee hosting a
Yes.
night game in Neyland. That would be cool. I think it'd be a lot better game, to be completely honest, if it was at Indiana, mostly because I just don't think Indiana's ever played in an environment like Neyland. Maybe Ohio State can have an argument for that, but that could be a really fun game to watch. Oregon, Alabama, that one is one that I just would have no idea what would happen.
Jalen
That
DeBoer had Oregon's number last year. I wonder if
that's
he could do it with
yeah.
Alabama again.
I mean, you talked about it with Georgia. Would depend what version of Jalen Milroe shows up, right, and what Oregon's defense dials up for his rush. But let's just say if it gets to that, I'm going to have some kind of different predictions there. So going back to mine, what are your initial thoughts on that?
That's what I was pulling up real quick because I wanted to see your matchups. Give me one moment. So going from Ohio State, Tennessee, I think would be a fun matchup. I would prefer to see Ohio State, Georgia personally, but again, it comes down to seeding. I
As a
think
Tennessee fan, I would prefer Ohio State to play Georgia too.
I think that Notre Dame and Alabama going up to South Bend would be a really cool environment that I would
That'd
love
be
to
a cool
see.
game. Mm-hmm.
Indiana, Penn State, I really don't like Indiana's chances in that game. I think Indiana playing Tennessee would be potentially a better matchup. I think Penn State just has the potential to swarm all over them and destroy Indiana, similar to how Ohio State did. And then lastly, you have Texas versus Arizona State. I really just don't see that being a compelling game to watch.
Now, okay, here's the biggest question I have for you. Regardless, and we're not going to make picks in all these hypothetical games,
Yeah.
but let's say between our two brackets, who do you think has the easiest path from my bracket and then from your bracket to the championship?
The easiest one in this bracket is either going to be the bottom left with the number 4 seed or the bottom right with the number 3 seed, in my opinion. I think Notre Dame, if they can get through Alabama playing Boise State, I think would be easy. And then Texas probably would have the easiest one based on your criteria, just beating Arizona State. I genuinely do not
Yep.
believe that SMU is as good as what their schedule says they are. That's how I feel. What are your feelings?
Yeah, I agree. I think if my bracket is accurate, you're probably going to see another Texas Georgia game. I think they could play three times in a year, which would be a
Crazy.
crazy, crazy game. And then I think that one goes different than the other ones. From
Now,
yours, from yours, I already kind of said it. I think Notre Dame would probably have the easiest path towards a championship. Whether Tennessee, Penn State ends up being a good matchup or not, I think that moves forward. Oregon having to go in and hypothetically, they beat Alabama. I think whoever wins that game also has a probably the second easiest path, but I'd probably say Notre Dame.
I I don't even think that there's a debate. Yeah, I think Notre Dame 1,000% on that one.
Yeah, great. All right, well, those are our picks. We'll see what's going to happen after probably another insane week in these conference championships. I'm really excited about it. Cameron, you want to close this out?
Absolutely. Please like, share, and subscribe. We love doing these podcasts. This was probably the most fun one yet to make. Actually, having to build one of these playoffs or brackets, I haven't really seen too many people go through this, but this was a really fun activity to be able to do. I hope
Yeah.
that I'm right. I think it would be a ton of fun to watch. But thank you for watching, everyone.
Yeah, and let every other podcaster and everybody who's too scared to make an actual bracket and just says who they think might possibly get in, let them know. Don't shy away from it. It was a lot of fun.
Tell them to comment.
Exactly. Yeah. All right,
Thank you.
everybody. Appreciate it. See you in the next one.